All the roads are winding.
Welcome to the show, Larissa. I am really excited to get into the voice and music and the drums and all that magic. So thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking about it, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Before we begin, would you like to set the energy for this conversation?
Sure, I'd love to. I'd love to just offer a song as a way to bring us all in, invite us all in. I believe that music really speaks for itself. It does what it needs to do. And so I want to just invite everyone that's listening to bring your full presence here. Allow yourself to be open, to be receptive to any new insights, any new information, any new wisdom, any inspiration that comes through in this song and our conversation here today. And just also want to call in the elements, call in our Mother Earth, Gaia, appreciation for all that she is, does, and brings to us in her prosperity and abundance and ever-giving life. And just inviting in any non-physical, benevolent, loving light beings that would love to be present in our conversation today. Any information, insights, wisdom, guidance that wants to come through our voices so that we may share and speak and sing more beauty into this world, into this conversation. And I'm going to be sharing one of my favorite songs by Winsong Martin, Mother, I Feel You, which I believe is such a beautiful chant prayer to connect to our relationship to the earth as us. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I hear your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh. Mother, I hear you in the river song, eternal waters flowing on and on. Mother, I hear you in the river song, eternal waters flowing on and on. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. Yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, yeah, oh. I'm just inviting in celebration for life, for our hearts, for our families, for our food. What are you grateful for? What can you celebrate today, no matter how big or how small it is? Father, I see you when the eagles fly. Light of the Spirit gonna take us higher. Father, I see you when the eagles fly. Light of the Spirit gonna take us higher. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, yeah, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. I hear the voice of my ancestors ancestors calling me. I hear the voice of my ancestors' song. Hey-ya, 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 ya, hey-ya, hey-ya, oh, listen, listen.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's amazing how the voice can just like how the somatic, the like visceral response, like getting chills and like feeling it. It's like just such an integral part of being human, I feel like.
100%. Yeah, I feel like the voice can translate things that the speaking voice can't always do. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to drop into that space with me.
Thanks for taking us there. So before we go any further, I'd love to hear, what are your ancestral lineages?
Yeah, so my actual DNA is Italian. My mother's side is Italian. And then my father's side is British and Irish. And I have a little bit of African back there, like 2%, just in the lineage. But that is my actual DNA. So, you know, I've definitely used music to connect to those different elements. And I will say that on a very multidimensional level, I do feel a deep, deep relationship to Native American and that connection there. And I feel that I have a lot of support on just the spiritual side around that lineage. And for me, it comes with deep honor to be connected to that, even though it's not in my DNA, in my blood in this life.
Thanks for sharing. And, you know, we have you on the show because of your connection with music and voice and the spirit and just kind of transcending the physical realms. And you know, your relationship with music is so much more than just this entertainment. It's this embodiment. And I'd love to just hear a little bit from you about what music means to you, especially as a healing modality.
Yeah, well, this is my favorite topic. So, you know, for me, music is everything. Music is life. You know, I love the phrase water is life as well, right? Because it is. And also, you know, music I feel is just as important because essentially we're all sound. We're all music. Because what music is math in motion. So it's a vibration. And so the way that I see our bodies, the way that I see life is kind of like we're cells in the body of life. You know, we're all these human beings on this planet together. So there's a microcosm and there's a macrocosm. And so it's the same when it comes to our bodies and our voices. And so for me, when it comes to having a relationship to music, it's really about having a relationship to ourselves because it's what we are inherently. And so I believe that, you know, allowing the inner musician, allowing the inner singer to come through is one of the most empowering things that each one of us can do because it is, again, inherently, innately who we are.
Right. Like we are vibration, and that, you know, kind of pointing back to what I said earlier of like how the body just has this visceral response to like chills of this sound. And you were talking about how it's, you know, singing and music can offer more than just the words. It is that tone, that vibration. And it's so cool how tone affects us. And I don't know, like in your own journey, was this something that as a kid you were already like super attuned to this, or did this awaken for you later in life? How did you really step into this?
Yeah, I was very attuned when I was young. I basically remember having my first solo when I was 5 and singing and holding a microphone and feeling the audience. And I really remember this moment like a lightning bolt of like, oh yes, I remember why I came here. And it's so my whole life has really been following that deep intuitive knowing that I've come here to sing and to share and to be and breathe that.
Wow, that's such a gift, you know, like 5 years old, you're like, I got this. And was that lightning bolt moment, did it illuminate your path enough that you stayed connected to that as you got older and as you kind of grew more, that age 0 to 7 is kind of we're so open. And then we start to get that conditioning and shut down. And did that lightning bolt moment, was it powerful enough to keep that illuminated, or did it ever disconnect? Did you have to like find your way back?
Yeah, at the core of it, it always stayed connected because it's my love for it and the way that I can express through it and the way that it makes me feel that has always been my anchor point. However, I've had my journey with finding my way through music and my place in music. And, when I was younger, I was taught by society to believe that you have to be a pop star to be successful. And so I had that imprinted somewhere inside of me. And it took me a lot of ego deaths to really unravel that and realize that it's so much more than just that. It's so much more than just the idea of success and fame. It's actually comes back to my relationship to it, how I get to show up to it, how I choose to share it, how I choose to receive it through the essence of my own being. And that, I think, has really shifted everything for me. But I have been blessed in some sense to always know that, that is an anchor for me and what I've come to do and to be and to breathe.
That story of like feeling like you have to be a pop star to be in music, I feel like that's so... I've heard that before, it's like, it must be, I didn't grow up as a musician, so it wasn't my story, but I've heard it from others. And I'd love to hear from you, what kinds of ways that are different, that are possible, have shown up for you on the other side of believing that you have to be a pop star. Like, what does that tangibly look like? And, maybe from that old belief of that you have to be a pop star, what is that new belief? And you kind of touched on it already, but I really want you to like take us there tangibly. Like, what does that look like in action? How do you like live as a musician who's not a pop star?
Well, essentially it comes down to you do the thing you want to do. So it's like, if you want to sing, then sing. If you want to dance, then dance. If you want to write, then write, And so it's, it comes down to finding ways to do it that feel good to you. And so for me, the way that looked like was, I found myself in choirs growing up and taking voice lessons because it was how I knew to plug into that when I was young with community. And that was a huge part of my journey because it taught me so much about, ear training and really being able to harness my voice. And, I definitely wasn't always a perfect singer. And I have so many stories of not being good and sounding horrible, So that was one big piece of it. And then eventually I picked up the guitar, and that gave me a whole new way to express because then I had a foundation to write my own songs and not just sing other people's stuff, but like really connect to my own essence. And then I joined a performing arts group that, traveled all around the world with him. It was a little bit more Broadway style. So, I'm sharing this because for me, it was like, I always found a way to do what I wanted to do. And the journey of that has actually brought me back home to myself. And eventually, I started sitting with plant medicine ceremonies. And that was also a big part of my journey and really understanding it's about coming home and using the voice, using song, using music to come home to who we are.
I imagine those plant ceremonies were a large part of the ego deaths too.
Oh my God, big time. And you know what though? I am so grateful for them because it's changed me as a human and understanding that it doesn't matter if I'm singing for one person or if I'm singing and sharing for 1,000+ people. It's like, it's about how it impacts is like, that's everything. And also for me, it really showed me how to drop deeper into my own being, that when I am singing, it's not coming from a place of, look at me, I need your validation, I'm trying to prove something. It's like I've taken the journey to dismantle all of that so that when I'm sharing, it's actually come from a place of true inspiration and overflow. And I'm at the point now where like, I cannot force myself to sing, especially if I'm on a plant medicine. It's like, it's not happening. So it's, that's been a big part of my own journey and what I love supporting other people in when it comes to, reclaiming that part of themselves, is really getting to unravel all of those layers around, why are you doing this? Because some people have different ideas of, they had pressure from their parents, or they're looking to prove themselves worthy. It's like all of this stuff can come with it. And so I think that, again, at the essence, it really comes back to, no matter what your dreams, desires, goals are, is what's the why, and how can you, again, bring yourself home when it comes to how you share and express and connect to it.
Okay, let's get into that. So like someone who's listening who maybe doesn't feel connected to their voice, what, because you work with people to help them do this. You work with people to help reconnect to their voice and to connect with the drum, and like you go so many layers here, how to sing and drum, and how to, this is like medicine. So for someone who's like, I can't sing, what would you say to them? And like, do you have any stories that can kind of illustrate that actually maybe someone who feels like they can't sing can?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing I like to target is the belief that I can't sing is actually an illusion. Because if you can talk, you can sing. Now, are some people more naturally gifted? Yes, 100%. Just like if two people were to play soccer and one might be a little more gifted than the other. However, if they both have the same amount of drive and desire and love and passion, it's like nothing can stop them. So really honing in on that, the idea, instilling the belief that I can sing. Oh my gosh. And seeing that shift for so many people has actually been something that's one of my favorite moments. Like I've had a few clients that came to me and they said, I'm tone deaf. I can't hit a note for the life of me. Like, what do I do? And what we uncovered was that someone told them that along the way. And they literally believed it and recreated it as their reality, and just wrote off their voice and their ability. And so what they discovered is that as they received some one-on-one support and feedback from me of how to find the note, how to really listen, how to tune into the frequency of it, the emotion, the feeling, all of the things, it's like seeing that light bulb turn on when I'm like, yes, that was it. Yes, that was it. Yes, that was it. And they're like, oh, I'm doing it. So, I truly believe, because I've witnessed it and supported it, that, if you can talk, you can sing. It really comes down to your why and your level of desire.
Beautiful. And for someone who is maybe like, no, I really can't sing, or is a little bit like, I don't know, resistant to trying, or wants to, I'm not trying to like force them into singing, because you can't force someone into singing, but more like an invitation. I just really want to, because I have been this person. I'm just sharing this because I've been this person, and I've been the person who's like, I can't sing. It's not safe to sing. It's like, I'm going to hurt people if I sing, like all of these things. And like, I might hurt myself, I might hurt my throat, and over the past year, just kind of my own journey has been to reclaim my voice and I've wanted to learn how to Kuln, which is Kuln, which is that like really eerie, enchanting Swedish herding call, because that's my like ancestral heritage, and I wanted to do that as an offering to my ancestors. And in learning this, it feels so good. It is such a reclaiming. I'm like, wow, I feel powerful, but like powerful in a benevolent way, not like a power over way. And I just would love to hear from you a little bit about what you see people might be missing out on by not facing that fear of connecting with their voice and just trying it and having that relationship with this power they hold within.
Well, I love that you spoke to your experience directly on, studying the Kuln and feeling the power in that. And so that's exactly it, is that it's giving you an access point to energetics within yourself that want to be expressed that maybe don't in other ways. So it's like, I just got chills, because when you can allow yourself to sing from a level of freedom of any idea, thought, belief, story, then what's happening is you're actually connecting to the purity of the energy beneath what's coming out of you. So say, for example, yours was accessing that place of power within yourself. And guess what? That gets to pop open for so many other areas in your life, because now you've tapped into the energy of it through your voice. So a lot of the journey is about liberating any stories that are keeping us from, again, coming home to ourselves. And ultimately, you can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. So it's about getting clear on, do you actually have a desire to do it beyond what the fears might be? Is there something in you that's saying, ooh, there's something here for me? Let me discover that, even though it's unknown. I have no idea what I'm going to look like, sound like. I'm going to probably revert back to a 3-year-old, right? There's like all these things that come up. But ultimately, it's really listening to, do I feel that there's something in this for me? And I believe that it's a transformational journey for everybody.
I just want to say I got major chills too when you said, it's this access point for energetics. I was like, you just nailed the experience that I've had too. I'm like, whoa, it's like this, there's something within, and this all comes back to what you said at the very beginning of our call. Like it could, the voice and music and sound can express something that words alone can't. And doing that, it's this embodiment. It's an experience, it's not an intellectual understanding. It's a full body knowing.
That's exactly it. I mean, I'm getting covered in chills because you hit it on the head. It is an embodiment. And we've come here to do that, to be in our bodies and to connect. And the voice is an extension of our inner workings. So it's also why it's so vulnerable for so many people, because you can't hide when you sing. You literally cannot hide. Whatever wants to come out is going to come out. And so sometimes it's messy at first, and, I have certain tools and tricks and things I do with people for the process of that. But, we can express anything through our voices and it to be allowed and permissible, especially, I love that we can use music as a way to create beauty, even for some of the uglier stuff, some of the darker stuff. We can make art out of it and give it a way to express. So, yeah. I
mean, so true. So true. I'm just like, let's just all sing right now.
That's my kind of party.
I love that. Something I want to talk about a little bit that I don't know if you know anything about this, so totally cool if you don't, but I've been learning about Polyvagal Theory, which sounds all complicated and scary. It's a weird word, not very well known of like this word, but it essentially speaks to the different ways our nervous system reacts to threat versus safety. And so this has a lot to do with trauma and healing. And in Polyvagal Theory, one of the ways that you can actually help your body return to safety is through singing and toning and sound. And so it like actually directly impacts your polyvagal nerve. And it's so cool that like that kind of links back to that visceral aspect. And like that's about as deep as my knowledge of that goes. But I just think it's a really cool connection with, it's this like making sound is this tool we have inside of us to return to safety, which is essentially all healing. So I'd love to hear, that's just a little like tidbit I wanted to throw out there because I know there's some like probably like trauma healing nerds listening. But I'd love to hear from you too. We've touched on it in like this coming home and this healing aspect, but I just want to hear a little more about the healing aspect. Like what else is happening? Can you like take us deeper into that coming home to yourself, and what is this medicine? Like what else is getting uncovered here? And maybe if you have a personal story of accessing healing through your journey of singing and sound and drumming.
Yeah, so much goodness in there. I love that you touched on all of that around the safety piece, and I was covered in chills again around that, because that's exactly what's happening. Because when we sing, if we're in our mind, there's like a disconnect, and then we feel that. So allowing us to be embodied and sing whatever the energy that wants to come through is actually bringing us into the present moment. And in the present moment, we actually are safe, right? So that's the coming home to. And so it's, that was one piece I wanted to speak on. And then you asked me something else, the trauma, the healing aspect. So again, coming back to that, we're all vibration. When we can use our voice to intentionally move into our body, move into our cells, move into our organs, we can use our voice in a way that nobody else can do for us. So that's one of the reasons why I believe so deeply in supporting people to reclaim their own voice, because it's your toolbox. And so when you can use it to work with your own system, work with your own energy, work with what's coming up and alive for you, then the more power you actually have. And it's such a great vehicle to being able to do that. And it can heal our trauma if we allow it to and are open to it and invite it to do that. And there's one of the practices that I use with every client is called a somatic sounding technique. And so it's less about creating a song and a melody, but it's about getting as real and raw and truthful in the sounding of what wants to come through you without it needing to look a certain way, but just being real and authentic. And what happens is that actually moves energy. It moves emotion. And then from that place, when we can kind of excavate any junk, then we can get to the beauty. Then we can get to the wisdom. Then we can get to the melodies and all of that. But sometimes we have to go into the muck first to kind of clear and move and sift and sort. And that can be deeply, deeply healing and super empowering because, one thing I love to do is wake up in the mornings, and the first thing is tune into myself and be, okay, what's present, what's alive, what am I feeling, what am I carrying with me from my dreams or the previous day, what's going on? And I actually allow myself to drop into a somatic sounding practice and move it and clear it, because if I don't, it's like hanging out on me all day. So it's also a great way to come into 0 point again with yourself, which is very empowering because then you can be in conscious co-creation.
That is so cool. Is that something that you would feel comfortable sharing how to do that if someone's curious to just try that on their own? Is that something they could do?
Yeah, so there's a few different steps. So the first is really getting clear with what's the dominant energy I'm feeling. So it could be sadness, could be joy. From there, asking yourself, where do I feel it in my body? So if it's sadness, it might be like, oh, I'm feeling some heaviness in my chest. And I'm feeling some pressure maybe in my neck, right? This could be an example. Or if it's joy, it's like, oh, I feel some bubblies in my belly. And then from there, giving it an image or a representation. So say, for example, let's focus on the heaviness, all right? Just to kind of go there. So the image for me might be feels like I'm seeing these weights on my shoulder and this cinch around my heart. And I feel my head just wants to droop and I want to hide in a cave, right? So that leads into the next part. It's what does it make you want to do? So the image might be, I want to hide in a cave and roll up in a ball, right? So now I've associated what the energy is, where specifically I feel it in my body. It could even be I feel it in my right toe, right? So you're getting really, really present to what's up in my vehicle. And then what's the image associated with it? Because now we're connecting in our inner sight, our vision. And then from there, does it have a sound? Or if I were to give it a sound, what would it sound like? So if I'm connecting, for example, to the energy that I spoke to, the heaviness, the right? And I kind of drop into it and I feel it right? And so as I continue to go into this practice, I can start to connect to, oh my God, I'm feeling frustration. I'm feeling some anger, right? I'm feeling these. So what happens is the energy starts to move and shift as I allow myself to continue to trace how it's unfolding in each moment. Now I can feel if I start to go up into the mind, right? well, sometimes like if you tense up and you're like, okay, where do I go from here? So you come back into listening, which is essentially what we do when we sing. It brings its presence every single moment, so that we're listening in every single moment and we're actually transmitting an energy. So this somatic sounding practice is beneficial for so many reasons. So that's the next piece, right? So then we're sounding, we're letting it out. The idea is you could be in this practice for 20 minutes, continuing to be with this energy. Eventually what happens is you feel it pop, you feel it shift, you feel yourself coming into something else, you feel yourself come to 0 point. And so that's the idea, is that we're moving energy, we're getting present, we're getting aware. Now say, for example, I'm like, I feel joy, I feel great, I feel it light in my heart, I feel it in my belly, and it looks like these little like bubbles that have like rainbows in them, right? And it makes me want to like jump up and to enjoy and like just stand on a mountaintop and like exclaim to the world my happiness, right? That might be the image. And then the sound might be something like right? So you can see it's like I'm following the energy. It starts to shift a little bit. It's taking me now into some pleasure. I'm like, right? So again, it's like we can follow these threads and really have fun in the exploration of how we're connecting to ourselves through the purity of literally making sound without it needing to be anything than the realness of what it is.
Thank you. That was like so cool. And I definitely know people are going to try that, because I'm going to try it too. So one person's trying it here. And it reminds me of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the artist way, and you do morning pages where you have to write 3 pages, just you have to like write, and it like gets the gunk out. This sounds like such a an audio version, you know, vocal version of that. So I'm excited to try that, because my practice with morning pages is so like, I know what you're talking about with that 0 point. I'm like, da, 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 like, you know, like, so that's really cool. I want to try it with just sounding and see, you know, what kind of journey that feels like, getting to that set point. Thanks.
Absolutely. And one thing too, I want to just encourage you and anyone who's going to try that is, you know, as you go through those, really speak it out vocally, you know, even if you're just by yourself. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling, right, like really naming each thing, because it can really help in the process of being the witnessy to your experience.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. It's really cool. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about your journey, a lot about healing with music and sound. And so I'd kind of like to steer in the direction now of how music plays a role in your connection with nature and spirit. How would you describe yourself in relation with nature, spirit, and sound? Like, are you a channel? And what does that look like for you?
One of my favorite things to sing about is nature, because it's such a teacher, for one, and it is us. We are an extension of nature, which is why I love the chant, earth my body, water my blood, fire my spirit, you know, because it's really speaking to there is no separation there. And so for me, I find so much peace, so much joy, so much beauty, so much awe, so much majesty in being with nature as a reflection of us. So it's one of my favorite things to sing about. And I think that and believe that it is spirit, and spirit is in nature, and spirit is in us, and spirit is in all things. And yes, I am a channel, and I believe that we all are. And we all have the ability to channel, and that could be our soul, it could be our heart, it could be our highest self, it could be a connection to angels or a spirit guide, right? All these different ways that we can connect with spirit, with higher intelligence, with higher consciousness. And so that's one of the reasons why I love playing and singing music, is because I feel that I get to connect to states of higher consciousness and be able to transmit it through the vibrational frequency, and then it holds a field. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And I can hear in your music, which is so beautiful, by the way. I hope everyone goes and listens, that the devotion you have, to nature as spirit and us as nature and spirit, and it really comes through, and that's a feeling that really comes through when listening too, which is a major attraction point for listening, because that's reflects my own devotion. And I think that's so important to just have those that space held in a way, like music does so much and it's so powerful.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that about my music. I really appreciate that.
Totally. Where did you learn about, I don't know why I'm wanting to ask this, but it's just like this question's in my head. So I'm like, where did you learn about ritual?
Well, I'd say I just got chills again thinking about it. I mean, a ritual is essentially habit, right? And really, one way that I got to experience that was in ceremonial settings, and sitting with plant ceremonies. And for me, that was such a beautiful way to connect to the sacredness of ritual, the container of ceremony, that offers the spaces for us to connect to our devotion and our prayer. And so, yeah, I believe, again, ritual is a habit infused with a positive intention. And for me, I have my own little ways of using incense and feathers and music to really connect to that. And there's so many different rituals throughout different cultures too that I find so beautiful, and have, going to Bali and seeing their way, the Native American way, and I feel like there's so much and so many different cultures. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to have ritual.
Mm-hmm. And how did you really hear the call to those plant medicines?
Yeah, well, I was always I'd never done any drugs, whatever we want to call it, marijuana or anything like that. For a very long time, even though I had opportunities when I was younger, because I always felt like for me it had to be something that came with so much respect and care and safety. And so the very first time I actually had a safe container, it was with a medicine called sassafras and mushrooms. It was a blend of the two. And this particular community that I was with just offered such an incredibly safe, sacred container. And that was my first experience really in that. And I had just, through community and friends, been connected. And from there was when I started to get introduced to ayahuasca and, the healing properties of that, and decided to sit with this same group. And so the calling really was just a knowing and a listening and just kind of following that pull, really trusting. But oh my gosh, I remember being so nervous before my very first experience. Yeah, and let's see, that was in 2015. So that was a big pivotal moment for me, and just I kind of listen when I hear the call.
Sassafras. I haven't heard sassafras in a long time. So when you said that, I mean, I've never actually sat with sassafras, but kind of forgot about it. So in those plant spirit medicine experiences, we kind of touched on like they really helped you come home to yourself and kind of uncover these new, come home to yourself really. How were you different afterwards? Like what changed?
Well, it's funny because my very first album that I released, I think I had released it either right before I was first started sitting or right before. And then my second album, I think I'd been sitting for a couple years, and you can actually hear the difference in my voice. And part of it is because in the first album, I was singing much more like up. It's kind of hard to explain, but energetically, it was much more up. It was like much more just settled and dropped in. And really, that was one of the biggest things that I was able to receive from doing this work, was like settling into my body, settling into my channel, settling into the overflow. So it's like the journey really became around releasing any idea that I need to be, do, have, any certain idea of success, fame, recognition, appreciation, like completely dismantling that and learning how to truly offer from a space of pure intention, of pure overflow, of the intention to hold, the intention to heal, to inspire, to reach, to uplift, right? So I've always had that my whole life. I knew that that was something I was here to hold in music, but sitting with the plant medicines really allowed me to drop in deeper to that.
Sounds like a layer was really shed, or layers were really shed, because you said it was already there and just allowed them to come forward.
100%. Yeah. And also really showed me, I had a lot of experience with performing on stages, and, there wasn't much fear around that aspect, being in front of large amounts of people or being heard. But what it showed me was a deeper way in how to hold large energy fields through music. It's like you're really holding a container, and you are the, what's the word? You are the conductor when you're the singer, whether you're in plant ceremony medicine or not, if you're at a concert or whatever. They're holding a field, right? And so it's creating a massive impact and ripple. And so the responsibility that actually comes with being somebody sharing song in space, whether it's one person or 10 or, right? There is a level of responsibility. What are you actually here to bring through that is giving to the field, in service to the field, in service to the collective?
Yeah, thanks for naming that. I mean, it makes total sense too. And just I think it reminds me of reading like Electric Acid Kool-Aid Test, and how I think it was the Grateful Dead. I don't know, someone who can remember the details better. It was so long ago. Sorry if I'm wrong here, but they were talking about how they know, like, I think it was the Grateful Dead. They noticed that like they would build so much energy and then they didn't know what to do with it. And that speaks to that, holding that big energetic field and that responsibility and becoming conscious of that and being able to direct that energy, that conductor. It's really powerful. I mean, and that's kind of the same thing happening with media and like anywhere that this but sound is so powerful because it goes beyond that intellectual into that energetics. So yeah, thanks for naming that.
Absolutely.
And I would love to talk too about the drum, and how did the drum find you? What is your relationship with the drum?
Yeah, so I've always had a strong rhythm. Loved to dance, always felt that, guitar is a rhythmic element. But my very first time I picked up the frame drum was with my first teacher, Miranda Rondeau. And I had one group lesson with her, and something just clicked in for me. And I was like, oh, this feels so good. And then I ended up, it's kind of interesting to kind of track back the trajectory, but that was the first moment. And then I studied with a woman named Marla Leigh Goldstein. And she deepened my practice, my ability a lot. And then somewhere along the way, I ended up just starting to infuse these medicine songs and chants with what I had learned, and started singing my own. And that's really how my Drum and Song Academy program got birthed, was being able to offer the two, infuse the two, and really support others in being able to sing and play at the same time.
Can you tell us kind of energetically, what does the drum bring in beyond what we kind of touched on with the voice already? And maybe is there like a synergistic relationship between the two? What's happening?
Yes, 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 100%. I get so excited. Well, it's different than the guitar, because when I'm playing the guitar, I'm connecting more to like a heart center place, like songs from the heart really come through. The drum is our root, right? It's so primal. And so it connects us most predominantly to the earth, right? And that very like real, raw, primal, earthly element. So in that sense, it brings through a whole other relationship of what I'm bringing through in music, more kind of the chanting, more of the earth-based songs, more, I feel more power, more of my like, force coming through in that way. So it's very different. And it's very different than the guitar is what I'm saying. And what rhythm does when we play the drum is it can invite us into a trance-like state. All music does this essentially. Every single song can invite us into a trance-like state. And so one of the reasons why I love the drum so much is because it's simple, especially if anyone's listening that's like wanting to start out playing something. I mean, the drum is such a great place to start because essentially all music is rhythm. So if you can get strong at rhythm, like that's your first place. But being able to, start to weave in the voice with rhythm is really the next step with that. But something as simple as, one beat, hitting one beat, that can take us into a whole level of trance. It can hold a whole field, right? It can bring through a whole vibration. So, and then through being in the trance state, we can enter higher states of consciousness, access deeper parts of ourselves. So that's why I love the drum so much.
Yes. And then what are you doing in those higher states of consciousness with the drum and sound,
Yeah, I love that you asked that. It can look a number of different ways, and it could be different for me than it is for somebody else. For me, the biggest piece is really that coming home aspect. It's like connecting to being so present. And then it's the experiences like really putting aside any egoic intention or any egoic desire, and really opening up to, again, those more the pure states of what am I giving, what am I holding, what am I serving, what's my intention here. And then for me, I connect to different flavors of energy in different instruments. So for the drum, I really feel my like Native American spirit guide come through, and he really loves to play through me. And whether, that was me in a previous lifetime or whatever we want to call it, there is such a deep connection and level of reverence there for that. And then when I'm playing guitar or I'm playing crystal bowls, like I really feel my angelic realm come through, and I'm starting to channel higher frequencies. I'm feeling the purity of the angels, right? And the medicine of those two are very different, right? The earth, native, raw, the angelic, high, pure. It's like, it's very, very different. And again, one reason that singing music is so powerful, because it's like we can play in all the different realms.
Thanks for taking us there. So we're going to do, you're going to lead a workshop for us at Art Speak, and I'd love to hear, what are you going to guide people through in this workshop?
Yes, I am, and I'm so excited. So if you are listening to this podcast, then it's likely we'll dive deeper into the somatic sounding just a bit. And then I'm also going to take you into some more vocal practices, tools, tips, techniques, exercises that are really going to allow you to open up the voice, use it as a way to connect with yourself, allow yourself to interface with any of the stories, ideas, disempowering belief systems, right? And kind of start to really unravel those. So there's going to be different exercises on really just dropping into your voice and vocal activation. If I can, I'll do some breakout rooms. We're going to be on Zoom, right? Okay, yay, perfect. So everyone in the call will get a chance to really have a lot of time to practice. So I'll be giving and guiding information, but then you're really going to get to implement and integrate it in the workshop. And then I'm also going to touch in rhythm a bit as well. So If you have a drum, bring it. If you don't, it's okay. You can, use your body. We're going to work with rhythm there. So we can start to plug into really getting confident at singing and playing at the same time and being able to feel the power of those two, because that's where the magic really happens.
Cool. I'm excited. I do have a drum that I made a few years ago, and I've just done, for journeying and doing like kind of energy work with it with my spirit guides. But I have honestly never drum and sang with it. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe in ritual a few times, but it's not like my normal. So I'm excited to, kind of face an edge for me and do that as well. And thanks for guiding us through this and like teaching this. I feel like it's such a gift to have someone to like lead us through this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, honestly, it's an edge for many people. So, I just want to speak to that because this spaces, I really like to create safe spaces for people to be able to explore that. And there is that unfamiliarity, that uncomfortability, and, it can bring up all the things. So just know that that's something that's so important to me, is really giving that space to have that permission to be wild and messy and whatever it is. You can show up in the fullness of who you are, in the authenticness of what you're bringing forward, and it all gets to be a part of the journey.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you're like, oh, I really want to like share this? Is there anything that's, that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, that feels like we really dove deep. I am excited to be releasing my Songs of Ceremony album this year, volume 1. There will be multiple. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. And of course, people can find me online and listen to my music online. So I kind of have the two worlds. I have the musician world, and then I have the programs and the offerings and the coaching and the, offering and service that way. So, so stay tuned really for that. I'm so excited to release this whole next album. The album is really designed to be a journey for a ceremonial context, really going inward and then having that expression. So there's going to be lots of fun songs on there.
Ooh, that's so cool. And then you kind of touched on this, but what do you offer and where can people find you? Because you have a bunch of offerings. People can engage with you kind of on their own time or get one-to-one time with you, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, on music side, I'm on Spotify. You can also find my music on Bandcamp. I try not to give too many areas. Sometimes it can get confusing. But the best thing really is going to larisamusic.com. From there, that can direct you into listening to my music. It can direct you into seeing what my programs are. I have basically 3 main offerings. Drum and Song Academy is one where we learn the frame drum and sing at the same time. You learn how to songwrite. You learn a few medicine chants. Really fun 9-week journey. And then I have the Vocal Library, which is 3 months of technical singing training. So that's a self-study course. People can choose into that. And then I am opening up some more one-on-one spaces for vocal and music mentorship. I took a break for a few months and now just feeling called to invite in a few more people for that. So that's typically anywhere from a 3 to 6 month journey to start. And that's where there's a lot more just one-on-one focus and attention.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And on Instagram, how can we connect with you?
Yeah, my handle is Larissa Gosla Music.
And of course, all that's in the show notes, y'all. So you don't even have to lock it in your head. You can just scroll right down and click, and there you go. So yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing your voice and your magic and your medicine with us. And I really cannot wait for this workshop. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's such a joy to share and connect. Thank you for inviting me to come and be a part of this. And I really look forward to the workshop as well.
All the roads are windy.
Listen to over 200 free EarthSpeak podcast episodes on your favorite podcast app and visit earthspeak.love to learn about our collective community and workshops.